What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel. Sports Channel, where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is you get around to watching this video. Once again, Steven Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. All right, guys, if you're new to the channel, do me a huge favor, guys. Please hit that subscribe button. All my OGs, y'all know what I'm going to ask you to do. Hit that thumbs up button, guys. This is how we grow the channel. This is how we let YouTube know to help push this content out to other people. All right, y'all. As promised, I told you today I was going to go over a mock draft with you. I want to make a few things known about this mock draft. To begin with, the number one thing I want to tell you about this mock draft is, guys, it's going to change. It's going to change over time because we haven't even gotten into free agency. So these are best case kind of guess scenarios. And you guys are going to notice there's a few people when I was doing this mock draft, when I was really looking over team needs, I really thought to myself, like, there's no way this player is going to last this long. But then I really looked through like what teams needed, what tested well at the combine, who had good film. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of receivers. I'm going to give you a shock rate from the start. No receivers going in the top 10, guys. I'm sorry, they're not. The offensive linemen tested way too well. And I'm sorry, you're not drafting wide receivers if you don't have a left tackle. Just that doesn't happen in the NFL. I think you got one possibility of one receiver going in the top 10. And I honestly, as I looked at it and I looked at who's playing quarterback for them, I looked at their team needs, it became pretty apparent to me that, yeah, they're probably not going wide receiver there. It's a possibility. It's unlikely. All right, y'all. Let's get into today's topic.
With the first pick in the draft.
All right, guys. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's just go ahead and let's rip this Band-Aid off. I mean, all right, top 10. I'm going to go over how I see the top 10 falling, guys, all right? So with the first pick of the 2020 NFL Draft, I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking quarterback from LSU, Joe Burrow. Not a surprise. Most people have projected it there. I got my own doubts whether or not this kid's going to work, especially in Cincinnati. But that's just, where the momentum is going. You just got to follow the momentum sometimes. I do have my doubts about Joe Burrow's ability to play in the NFL, but whatever. Second pick. This is where I think things get really interesting. Number one, I think beginning with that Washington and that Detroit pick, you have the possibility of teams trading back. Also, with Washington and Detroit, you have uncertainty following the quarterback position. So, with the quarterback positioning in Washington, you had Dan Snyder coming out saying that they would not be going quarterback. Okay. Ron Rivera, I don't think Ron Rivera gives a shit what Dan Snyder says, to be personally honest about it. With that said, I just don't know. I mean, if a head coach wants a new quarterback, the owner's going to have to put his hat in his hand and do what he's told to do in this situation. I still don't think they're going to go quarterback here, guys. I really don't. I think it's way too early to give up on the guy you already spent a first-round pick on the year prior. So I think if you look at the history of Ron Rivera, this is a defensive guy. He played defense when he played football. He started coaching linebackers. I mean, he's got a long history with the defensive side of the football. I think you see the Redskins go with Chase Young with the second overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Number 3. All right, with the third pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, once again, we have this interesting narrative about, the Detroit Lions. Once again, we do hear rumblings that they're not going to draft a quarterback here. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me because Matthew Stafford is on limited time. With that said, look, the organization's come out saying they don't think that quarterback is a need right now. So I definitely think Detroit is the place to watch for that first round pick. I do think you could see a pick coming in on the first round, and I'll tell you who I think might be trading up there. Keep your eyes posted on Miami and the Los Angeles Chargers, okay? I think both of these teams could possibly trade up into those, that positioning, trying to leapfrog one another for their choice of that second quarterback. Whether they value, Tua or whether they value Justin Herbert, they might be trying to jump the other, team to get there. So I would really pay attention really to the Chargers or even to Miami, because Miami might have that sense that the Chargers are going to jump them, and they might try to get up to the second or third pick to avoid that. Miami's got 101, first-round picks, basically, so pay attention to that Detroit pick. With that said, I had Detroit taking cornerback Jeff Okudah. Look, recently they've had him slide down a little bit. Sometimes people fall in love with the 40 time a little too much. You know, as long as a guy's not coming out there and running like a really bad 40, like a 4.6, 4.7 ish, then if a guy starts running a 4.6 or above, then you got to go back and look at the film and really, pay attention to what you're seeing if you're talking about a skill position. You're looking at a guy that's playing corner or wide receiver, then you got to really look at your film. You'll have legitimate concerns. A guy running under a 4.5, he's fine. He can play outside. If he's sound in his technique, if he's sound in his knowledge of receiver route trees, if he's got the ability to read the, quarterback's eyes, if they're physical enough to redirect receivers at the line of scrimmage, like, stop worrying about 40 times. It's not as important as some people think. All right, number 4, the 4th overall pick. I got the Giants. Look, I got the Giants taking Mekhi Becton, the tackle out of Iowa. Here's my thing. You got your running back. You got decent receiver play there. You got your quarterback. You better go get a lineman who can go protect this kid. Becton had a really good workout. He's not the guy I would personally take with this pick. I don't think that Becton is necessarily the best tackle on the board, but he's the guy with the most momentum right now, so I'm projecting him at number 4 to the Giants. All right, 5th pick. Look, I don't know if this is Miami moving up to go get this guy, if they are able to stay still and get him. I got Miami going and getting their quarterback because you need a quarterback. And what I got them taking right now is Tua. I got them taking Tua out of Alabama with either the 3rd pick or the 5th pick. We'll see how that works out. With the 6th pick, I got the Los Angeles Chargers taking quarterback Justin Herbert out of Oregon. Quarterbacks come off the board, guys. They do. I got 4 quarterbacks coming off the board in the 1st round. So here's the 3rd. Justin Herbert, Los Angeles Chargers. Look, if the Chargers are really in love with Tua, they might jump up there to that 3rd pick. Just pay attention to that 3rd pick then. All right, with the 7th pick, I had Carolina, and I got really iffy on what to do here. Carolina has invested picks in their offensive line, but I don't think their offensive line is playing the greatest right now. With that said, they're about to basically decline the option of Dontari Poe, from what I understand. They're going to be needing defensive line help, and I've got them taking Derek Brown out of Carolina. Or, I'm sorry, out of Auburn. My bad. Carolina taking Derek Brown out of Auburn. All right, let's get to the controversy. With the 8th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, I had the Arizona Cardinals taking offensive tackle out of Iowa, who I think is the best tackle in this draft, Tristan Wirfs. I know it's been a popular projection of recent to basically project this pick to go to, wide receiver play, in particular CeeDee Lamb. You can't do that, guys. If you don't have a left tackle, you can't do that. There's too many holes in that offensive line. You just got yourself your, franchise quarterback. You got to go protect them now. You can't go receiver before you go tackle, especially when the tackles have looked this good. And the guy who's probably the number 1 tackle, in my opinion, on the board is still there. You go get him. I got them taking Tristan Wirfs. All right, Jacksonville. With the 9th pick, I had the Jacksonville Jaguars taking defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. Look, there's questions about Kinlaw. He doesn't always have the highest motor. His motor isn't always there. With that said, when he turns it on, he turns it on. He's a good football player. And, the bottom line is, when you look at Jacksonville, they're going to need defensive line depth. They got a lot of older players in that interior line. And on top of having guys that are probably not going to be back, if not this year, the following year, there's already trade rumors circling the Jaguars with Yannick Ngakoue. So they're going to need defensive line. This is the best defensive lineman, in my opinion, still left on the board. I see the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Javon Kinlaw with the 9th pick. With the 10th pick in the NFL Draft, I had the Cleveland Browns selecting offensive tackle out of UGA, Andrew Thomas. Guys, I'm telling you, I think tackles are going to fly off this board in the 1st round. I don't even remember how many I put in there, but I think I have 6 being selected. Maybe 7, I don't know. Tackle's hard to find, guys. Tackle play across the league is horrible, and tackles are very difficult to find. So with that in mind, I'm going to keep projecting tackles to come off the board. So my top 10, Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Jeff Okudah, Mekhi Becton, Tua, Justin Herbert, Derek Brown, Tristan Wirfs, Javon Kinlaw, and Andrew Thomas. Like I said, you might have some action at 2 or 3 with the trade, but I think these are your 10 guys that are coming off the board with the top 10 picks. Some outside things that could happen. Some Philadelphia Eagles-esque trading up that could happen. Really pay attention, guys, to Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis and Tampa Bay are both in very awkward situations if you want a quarterback, which means they're going to really have to move really forward in the draft. If you really believe in Tua, or you really believe in Justin Herbert, if you are the Indianapolis Colts, if you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you've got to really get up there like the Eagles had to do to go get Carson Wentz. Watch that. I would watch movement on that part, but I just don't, because you got uncertain situations in Washington and in Detroit. You got teams that are clearly looking for quarterbacks in Miami and the Chargers. I just think it's going to be a tough road to hoe to get up there, to be personally honest. But that's my top 10, guys. All right, guys, some news and notes from my top 10, picks 1 through 10 mock drafts, the top 10 mock draft here. Number 1, really pay attention to the movement going forward. I do think that both Washington and Detroit would probably love to trade out of that 2 and 3 positioning. More so Detroit more than anything, because I don't think it's necessary to take Jeff Okudah with the 3rd pick in the 2020 NFL draft. I think you can move back to 5 or 6 and probably still have a more than 90% chance of landing, Okudah in that position. If they can't move back, I still expect Detroit to draft Okudah there, to be quite honest. Washington and Detroit also have their own little news and notes we got to watch out for, guys, because ownership is saying they don't want a quarterback. Just the circumstances of the league and things that we know about the league tells us pay attention to it anyways. A lot of posturing. Sometimes you can put things out there because you don't want people to know your intent. So don't take what you hear in the media to be gold right now, because teams might be a little deceptive with what they report or what they give to reporters to report to us. With that said, you might notice there are a few players you probably expected to be in the top 10 that are not in my top 10. I think the most prolific gentleman who's outside my top 10 is Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons is a very good football player, and this is a guy that I do think has an opportunity to go top 10. I would watch Jacksonville. I know that I didn't project him to Jacksonville in this mock draft. I went with Kinlaw, but I can see Isaiah Simmons making a lot of sense for Jacksonville because they do need a lot of help in the secondary. But if you're projecting Simmons as a linebacker, that's the problem I have with Jacksonville, because Jacksonville does have very good linebacker play. That's the issue I get into there. All right. The other player that you guys might notice is conveniently off of my list happens to do with the position at wide receiver. And this is a very talented football player in CeeDee Lamb. I just don't think that if you're in the top 10, you have the luxury of picking wide receivers. I don't. Although I think CeeDee Lamb is a special talent. You can't be up there if you don't have a left tackle. I'm sorry. You can't be up there talking about your future franchise quarterback getting killed by defenses because you drafted CeeDee Lamb instead of actually getting a left tackle. That's my perspective on why I did not put CeeDee Lamb with Arizona. I know that's a popular pick. I'm going with what I think would be the best available tackle. In my draft, I put Tristan Wirfs. But if Wirfs were to go to the Giants at 4, I could see Becton going there at 8. I could see people switching up. Andrew Thomas could be your 4. Andrew Thomas could be your 8 instead of 10. Like those 3 guys, I don't know the order. I just got a feeling those 3 guys, the way they tested at the combine, Becton and Wirfs and Thomas, I just feel like they're going to be top 10 picks. And I'm sorry, but offensive line play trumps wide receiver play every time. So that's why those 2 guys were left off my draft board for the top 10. Guys, stick around, because tomorrow you can take a guess where we're looking. We're looking picks 11 through 20, and there's going to be some trades in that scenario as well. And I'm telling you guys, my draft board is going to be interesting. All right, questions of the day. Question number 1, guys, for questions of the day. What I want to know from you guys is this. What player do you think that I left off the list has the most likelihood of going top 10? So what player do you think that I left off the list has the most likelihood to go in top 10? All right, question number 2. My second question, you guys, has to do with the trade value. Am I missing an obvious top 10 trade? as I said before, I felt like number 3, I didn't project it in my draft, but I felt like it's a possibility that Detroit could be trying to get out of that 3 pick. And if the Chargers had more interest in Tua, it would be a really big possibility because the Chargers would then have to jump Miami, in my opinion, to go get Tua. I just feel like the Chargers are comfortable with Justin Herbert, and I feel like Miami is comfortable with Tua. So I just feel like they're not going to probably trade up unless it's a necessity. All right. So following that, guys, what I'll ask you about the trade value is, am I underselling the possibility of Indianapolis or Tampa moving up? I mentioned it, but I'm not going to go, specifically about it just because I know it's going to be a monstrous event for them to go from 13 or 14 all the way up to 3. You're going to have to give up a lot to get there. That's why I kind of mentioned it. I know it's a possibility, but am I sleeping on that, guys? All right, y'all. My third and final question is Joe Burrow. What are your thoughts, guys? I'm iffy on Joe Burrow, to be personally honest. I don't think that this is a number 1 overall talent. But nonetheless, he's a quarterback. He's the most highly rated one right now. And that generally comes with the territory of being a top 5 pick. And most of the time, the number 1 overall. I feel bad for the kid because Cincinnati is not a place I would want most quarterbacks to go. Just not a very good organization. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out here. You know what time it is. We're going to end this video by going EADLES. All right, y'all. Tomorrow we'll go into 11 through 20. All right, y'all. Hint, hint. Major trade coming.